and thank you so much for joining us again for this month's episode of Boys and Girls Club's Clubcast. I am Marissa Gleockler, and today I am joined by our very own Senior Director of Education, Rene Motto. She has a lot of amazing things in the works as far as our academic success programs go and looking at different benchmarks that we can set for our programs within the club. So I'm really excited to talk to her today. So thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
I want to learn a little bit about you to start, because I know you have a very rich background in education and youth development, and I want to hear a little bit about that and how you came to be with Boys and Girls Clubs.
Well, I originally started out in the medical field, believe it or not, and the teacher's mantle was on my heart. So at a certain point in my life, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go back to school, and I did that, and I obtained my degree in elementary education. And then subsequently after that, I expanded myself into K-12 leadership. So my background is that I started out as a classroom teacher at elementary and middle school levels, and then after that I left the classroom and I became an instructional coach. And my role as an instructional coach was, twofold. First of all, and obviously to shore up our instructional practices, to make sure that we were providing quality instruction using best practices in alignment with the standards, with grade level standards, so we could best prepare our students for whatever was coming next. But then at the same time, just being a cheerleader or a coach, essentially, for the teachers that I worked with. And I did that at both the school and when the opportunities presented themselves at district level. So that's where my heart lies. So in this role, as the Senior Director of Education, for me it was the perfect segue, because one of the desires of my heart is always to keep, it's the whole child, and to connect kids with their gifts and talents. And yes, while accountability is super important and they have to learn all of the things that are put before them in their K-12 experience in the classroom, what can we do to provide experiences beyond that? Right. So in my role as Senior Director of Education, my goals are to work with my team to provide additional opportunities for experiential learning, to enrich them in many ways. It would be beyond just a set of standards in a curriculum. Right. But also in that coaching role, to support the staff in the organization who are then working with our members. Right. And really taking that deep dive into, Boys and Girls Club has lots of great programming, but really taking a deep dive into that programming and supporting them in, their understanding of those programs and what best practices they can incorporate to really optimize, to create the optimal learning environment, and of course keeping kids engaged, because we are in the after school space, and so we want it to be, it's kind of like a little trickery, we want it to be fun, but we also want it to be a purpose. It's really a privilege to have these kids in our space for whatever amount of time we have them. We share these kids with the St. Lucie County School District. So we want to maximize the time that they are with us. And so I'm really excited to be a part of that. There's so many great things going on. And again, it's just about, refining it. The other thing is creating that consistency in language, so kids see the connection between some of the things they're doing in the clubs, what they're learning in the classroom, what's the application for it. Right. Particularly with our teen members. Right. Oftentimes, our youth are like, oh, why do I need to know this? And making those connections. So, really looking forward to working closely with the school district to say, where can we plug in to support what you're doing? And even to bring some of those more abstract concepts to life with more hands-on experiential learning. And how do you think that, that sort of symmetry impacts a student? Obviously, there are students that only go to the traditional learning spaces. They go to school, they go home, and that's it. And then we're adding that sort of added resource and benefit of continued learning through fun activities, like you're saying, kind of some trickery, sneaky learning. How do you think that impacts a student's learning? I think that any time that you can layer in anything extra, you know, more opportunities to collaborate. A lot of what we do, we're looking for that, you know, with that hands-on comes collaboration. So again, it's not just, you know, academics, so to speak, but it's other skills that transfer to life, learning to work with your team, you know, learning to question, to create. So anytime we can create more opportunities for that, and it's like, and you know, it's kind of like the same when you think about the transition, you know, when the kids are in the summer space. It's like learning is not confined to the classroom, you know, so it's like looking for, it's all around us in life.
Right.
So providing those additional opportunities can never, I mean, it can only benefit them. And then even, you know, in some ways, if you happen to be the member in that space and you bring it home to your family.
Yeah.
You know, we have a lot of programs now that it's, you know, super exciting that kids will inevitably, you know, bring home their learning to their families.
Yeah.
So.
And that adds that holistic approach that you had initially mentioned, all around learning and in different areas. And you mentioned summer, which is a very hot topic right now as we're approaching summer camp. And how, you know, how do the clubs kind of plug into that? Because we talk a lot about summer brain gain or summer brain drain, you know, the opposite. And, you know, how important is that to keep those learning objectives going throughout the summer?
Yeah, so anytime that we can provide support by, you know, reinforcing the concepts that have been presented throughout the school year is always a benefit, because we want to keep that momentum going. You know, we want our members to be, of course, you know, empowered, prepared for what lies ahead, what comes next. So with never losing that focus, I mean, we get creative about the ways that we're going to reinforce it, about the ways we're going to present it to them. But it's very empowering for a learner to be like, you know what? I have even a piece of that background knowledge. And to start making those connections. And so the more that we can, you know, whether we're providing opportunities, maybe you're going to just practice a mathematical skill that you learned in whatever grade level, you know, you're transitioning from. Maybe you were very good at it, maybe not so good at it. Or maybe we're giving you an opportunity to mentor a peer. You know, so, you know, to your question, it's a win-win situation. You know, regardless of where you are on the learning scale. You know, providing those extra experiences just you know, like I said, keeps them moving forward.
Right. Well, let's talk about some of those experiences, because we teased quite a few fun, you know, experiences that we're going to be offering over summer, that we offer during the school year. Obviously, the summer months give us so much time with the club members, and we are able to fill it with a lot of enriching activities and programs and things like that. So what are some of the things that our clubs are doing that help reinforce these academic success objectives?
So we have on the horizon now, we have, I'll talk to you about, well, first of all, we have a huge STEM initiative. And, you know, STEM is everywhere. It's not like unique to the Boys and Girls Club, but we are really making a concerted effort to bring in more STEM activities. So we have we're bringing in STEM kits. We have what we call the STEM cart. And the bottom line is that it's providing our members with opportunities to, we present them with challenges, you know, that are relatable to real life. And then they have to engage in the engineering design process. So what's the challenge out there? Okay, let's brainstorm as a group. What are some possible solutions? We're actually going to create a prototype. Let's draw it out. So they're going to draw out their prototype. Then we're going to build it. We're going to build that prototype, and after we build it, we're going to test it. And we're going to say, we're going to have conversation about, well, why did it work, or if it didn't work, or maybe if it did work, what can we do to further enhance it, and really getting in that reflective stance. And then from there, it's like, obviously that learning is, you know, we can share that, that's transferable, we're going to bring that home, we're going to be excited about it, but it's exposure. It's not just learning. Everything that we are going to be putting in front of them is connected to the NGSS, so the state standards for science.
Gotcha,
So regardless of, you know, it could be any learning that's come, you know, K to 12, all of these are linked to one standard or another. So it's helping them to make those connections. So that's the hidden piece.
Right.
That's super exciting.
Right.
But in addition to that, we are also getting ready we'll have a drone club. Mm-hmm. So we're bringing in some drones, and the cool thing about our drone program is that it's actually, it's a curriculum. So in this program, there are 10 different missions, and the members will work together in groups of 3 or 4, and each one will play a role, and they will have the challenge of, like, for example, one of them has to do with, rescuing an endangered species, but they have to create the habitat first. So that creates a rich understanding of the habitat, of the challenges, of the impact that we as humans have on that.
Right.
So the learning is like expansive.
Right.
And then they will go ahead and they will engage in an actual mission to rescue them. There's one about, that pertains to the wildfires that have been, people have been dealing with across the nation. So very relevant. And then of course drones, I myself am learning a lot about drones and their application now and in the future. And in talking with the engineers that actually designed this curriculum, I was like, I was gobsmacked.
Yeah.
What lies ahead. So all of this we're front-loading our members with, piquing their interests, expanding their learning. These are all opportunities for them too to be exposed to possible careers.
Yeah.
And then we have the Charlie Cart.
Yes.
Yes, the Charlie Cart is literally a full-on, it's a kitchen on wheels. So we're going to be mobilizing the Charlie Cart across our locations.
Yes.
And Charlie Cart is also, it also has a curriculum. So the great thing about that is that it's very structured. So we can replicate the learning regardless of where it is. So while we always encourage our staff to, put your touch on it, your twist, and own it. At the same time, there are certain core things that are part of each, they call it a recipe/lesson, that we definitely want to make sure that are replicated each time the lesson or recipe is presented.
Right.
And there are literally objectives and discussion questions that will occur as they're moving through the preparatory stages. So it is, like I said, it's very well laid out, but you can't get more hands-on than that.
Right.
And it also speaks to, again, we have members from varied, socioeconomic status, and regardless of that, it's about understanding what constitutes, good health and nutrition.
Yeah.
So what are some options for that? What do I have at my fingertips in my own home?
Right.
And guess what? I am going to get a chance by participating in the Charlie Cart Project to create those things, and then I can bring it home to my family.
Right.
And then from a workforce readiness point of view, we are oftentimes, our youth, when they go out into the workforce, some of their first jobs are in food service.
Right.
So, and you may have a member that's interested in furthering their, going into a culinary related career.
Right.
So the experience with the Charlie Cart is going to provide them for success on different, like food preparation assessments and that kind of thing that they would need as they enter into, the culinary world. It is also very exciting that we have board members, community members that have gotten a sneak peek into the Charlie Cart, and they cannot wait to partner with us.
Right.
So, that's also exciting because with that comes, added knowledge, and more job exposure. So,
and I think the Charlie Cart program specifically, and the culinary programs that we offer at our clubs are specifically cool because we have such a huge the food industry in St. Lucie County is such a huge portion of our businesses, our local businesses. And so we are really prepping our kids to stay local and prep the next generation of the workforce. And all of these programs are just so robust. They tie in so many different areas of what we do. And you're, of course, focused on that academic enrichment, but there's the workforce readiness side of things, the cultural
Yes.
enrichment. I know that's a huge
Yes.
component of the Charlie Cart, and I think those are often facets of our programs that we don't talk about.
Yes, absolutely. And again, you know, with all of these programs, you know, the common thread is when you talk about, you know, like workforce and getting our members ready, those soft skills that they're going to acquire through
Yeah.
all of these experiences are just essential.
Right.
And, you know, they're kind of like a backdrop, but we really bring them to the forefront and say, you know, hey, here's what you're doing. You know, you have to be able to work as a team.
Right.
And whether you're cooking or whether you're building something, you know, that teamwork is a critical component. And so when you're out there in the workforce, you know, your future employers are going to be looking for that very thing. It's,
Right.
you know, it's something that is definitely going to be, you know, it's essential. It's an essential life skills. So all of these programs, you know, working, touching on that aspect of collaboration, you know, respect for each other's ideas, you know, hearing each other's different ideas, coming to consensus. All of that is the, you know, just kind of comes with the package, and that's pretty exciting because you can never have too much of that.
Right.
Regardless of your,
And
you know.
taking workforce even a step further, I know a lot of our programs are prepping our club members, maybe if they're not able to get certifications at a younger
Yes.
age, we're prepping them to get their certification within our clubs.
Yes.
Whether it's food safety or the drone certifications or what have you, there's a lot of tangible certifications or licenses or trainings that they're getting on site
Yes.
with the mentors in a safe environment that they can then take into their career.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that, you know, the great thing about it too is like this is a safe place to explore, you know? Maybe the drones might be a stepping stone to, you know, what your future holds. Or maybe you're in there and, you know, you're like, well, maybe not this, but something else. But,
Right.
you know, it's about just providing those vast exposures. And as far as the Charlie Cart is concerned, you know, whether or not it's culinary for you, ultimately, everybody benefits from knowledge of, you know, health and nutrition.
Right.
You know, we know statistics tell us that that is an area of great need. So cultivating that understanding is, you know, I know the schools work a lot with, you know, distributing healthy snacks. So again, it's just another way that, you know, we can spread the word, you know.
And how does that, when we're running these types of programs over summer and they're getting this extra learning time, how does that prep them for the start of the next school year? And how are we sort of, you know, working tangibly with the schools to prep for the next school year?
Yeah, and that's a great question. Part of my work, and in the short time that I've been here, is to have those meetings with school board personnel to really have an understanding of, you know, where the need lies. Coming so freshly out of the school district, obviously I come with a knowledge of, you know, there are certain areas where typically, you know, students will need more support.
Right.
You know, and it just kind of like, it, you know, we make strides, but they keep rearing their heads, you know.
Right.
So, you know, I bring with me that knowledge, like you can always use extra reinforcement in this or that. So whatever activities we can provide throughout the summer that will help reinforce those particular skills is always a benefit because, as I said before, anything that we can provide, whether it's you know, content related in terms of academics, or whether it's just simply how to function in the classroom, in a group, share your ideas, have your voice heard, respect other ideas.
Yeah.
You know, going into the classroom with, you know, shoring up that skill set, like we're not going to just push that by the wayside all summer long.
Right.
You know, because in as much as, you know, we know that this is the technology age.
Right.
And by and large, a lot of for a lot of our kids, the time is spent, you know, with computer games, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so those students will tell you it's strategy. I'm learning strategy, and to an extent, that's probably true. And we don't want to minimize the fact that they do have to have exposures. You know, when you talk about digital literacy and all that,
Yeah.
although that might be a little,
Yeah.
you know, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But the idea is that we want to pull them away from that, you know, and just still preserve the importance of these other skills that can only come through real interactions
Right.
with people,
Right.
you know, and experiences.
I know that digital literacy and just tech, this era that we're in right
Yeah.
now of all the growing tech, has become a more prominent conversation, especially when it comes to how we're utilizing it in education and how that affects our benchmarks. And then, of course, coming off the COVID era, that
Yeah.
affected learning too. I think we're in this era of real change.
Yes.
And I'm sure over time, change has always gone on, but this seems like in the last few years, it's been real rapid
Yeah.
change. And how do you feel like these programs and the clubs are helping kids adapt and keep up to that change?
I think right now, and we're really taking a good hard look in the area of digital literacy too, and like ways that what other programming can we incorporate, because this is the wave of, it's the wave of now, it's just not just the wave of the future.
Right.
So what we want is for, how do we encourage our members to capitalize on that in an impactful way, in a way that is going to breed successes for their future. You know, like one of the things that we have implemented is we have podcasts.
Yes.
So, you know, we're encouraging the team. Now there are specific members of the team that are working with the teens, and let's see, you know, what are we going to talk about? You know, let's get together. I don't want to, you know, spoil any surprises, but they're working hard on what are some things, what are some hot topics?
Right.
What are some important things that we can talk about? How can we utilize a podcast, you know, to further ourselves or our purposes, our causes, or whatever?
Right.
So we're looking hard at that, because podcast it's a big thing in today's world,
Right.
you know, and sometimes podcasts is even, you know, leads to, like, we have influencers and,
Right.
you know, so that is an area where we see potential for more growth and exposure for our members. So we're working hard at building that up. And then other things like bringing in people from the community that can talk to our kids and enhance their understanding, you know, in the digital realm.
Yep.
Expand, you know, digital, help them expand digital literacy.
Yeah.
Where is the application for this in careers?
Right.
You know?
And something we're working hard on in the workforce readiness realm, and as far as the community goes, is all of those skilled trades
Yes.
careers. And so a lot of what you're working on in these programs are teaching the basics that will then be applied to these types of careers, or any career, but you know, from learning how to measure or learning
Yes.
how to use different tools and
Yes.
communicate, like you're saying. And we're really bridging the gap between club members' interests and what they maybe are already coming in with a little background knowledge in, and then also what the community needs.
Yes.
You know, that community piece is so important for us and our members.
Yes.
In order to provide them what they need to be successful.
Absolutely, and one of the things that we're doing particularly with our teens, although, you know, we are all about the community.
Yes.
So you know what, we're just a phone call away.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and we want you to come on in. We have just that is our richest source of when I talk about experiential learning. Nothing beats that.
Right.
So with our teens, we're bringing in panels of professionals who are coming in, and they're talking to the teens about the various jobs that they have or have had. You know,
Yeah.
in some cases they're retired, and we are then having time for Q&A. We're doing breakout sessions.
Right.
And we're finding that, I mean, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So the teens are hearing about these different jobs, and the beautiful thing is that, you know, we had one gentleman coming in that was a nuclear engineer, but he also provided the information that, you know, that's one title, but underneath that umbrella, there are like 10 more jobs.
Right.
You know, and I thought, you know, wow, that was powerful. And so the result of that, when we got into our breakout sessions, was that, you know, the teens were asking lots of different questions.
Right.
And it's all about awareness. You know, you tuck that away, and then you have another experience, and maybe you link it to that. So, again, I feel like these are exposures that they might not otherwise have had.
Right.
And a lot of times I feel like our schools do a good job, our colleges do a good job, but there's still certain, pieces that are like missing links. Like, what do I do from here?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I have this interest, or maybe it's this degree.
Right.
And so now what areas is this applicable to?
Right.
What are some other options? How can I explore that more?
Right.
So, and because you have members of all different personalities, some that are more outgoing, some that are going to seize every opportunity, and others that are going to kind of sit back. We want to draw them out. We want to connect them in every way that we can to ensure their success.
And that goes back again to the holistic approach. Having that mentorship piece in our clubs is so important, I think, in bringing those kids out of their shells a little bit and diving them deeper in these areas, and also bridging the gap between knowing what's out there and bridging that with what we're teaching in the clubs.
Yes.
So that mentorship piece is so important.
It's huge. And, in that panel, too, that I was talking to you about, it's empowering for kids to hear that, or teens, like, I wasn't 100% sure, one of the gentlemen said. And so talked about his experience and his journey. And so it's okay not to be able to land on right in that moment exactly what it is, but to have an idea, or even a vague idea. So he talked a lot about that. But again, I can't stress enough that, and of course you've been with the movement longer than I have, but it's like community is everything, and those partnerships. And life is an invaluable teacher. Right. So there's nothing like that hands-on, I've been in the mix, and if someone can bring that, to our clubs, and that's like getting real, really talking about it. You just can't, that's priceless learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I know we are all very excited to see all of these things coming up over summer and so forth. We're really excited to have you on board.
Oh, thank you.
And all this experience and knowledge that you bring to the team is just incredible. I know I tell my team, go talk to Rene. She's like full of wisdom. You can always pull stuff from Rene. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you coming in and talking to me today about all these exciting programs. And if there's anything that we talked about today that you want more information on, we do have summer camp registration live. We have, I believe, 7 locations open this summer throughout the county, Fort Pierce and Port St. Lucie, so I encourage everybody to go check that out. Like Rene mentioned, we'll have lots of academic enrichment programs going on, such as the STEM programs, we have literacy programs, the Charlie Cart's going to be up and running. So really some amazing opportunities to get involved in the clubs, career exploration, and get involved in the community. So if there's anything that we talked about today that you might be interested or want to register your child for summer camp, I encourage you all to head to our website, www.bgcofslc.org. And Rene, again, I thank you so much for chatting with me today. Absolutely.
Yes.
And we will see you next month, when I'm sure there will be a lot of this up and running.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Thank you so much.